Now it is decriminalized, so you can carry a small amount. You can't publicly buy it, but if you have a medical card, you can buy it from a medical dispensary. You can even grow up to 4 plants at home if you'd like. So it's much more relaxed from if you've been here 5 or 10 years ago. So the significance of this street is this is our main shopping district and business district. So you'll notice a lot of cafes and restaurants. Not so much shops, there are a few shops, but it's mostly restaurants on this street. And this place here with this little outdoor cafe, this is a result of the pandemic. Before the pandemic, there was no outside eating.
Die Pandemie macht's möglich.
In order to help the restaurants survive, the city passed laws that allowed them to build these little outdoor eateries. And luckily for us, some of them have survived. Many have been demolished, but a few still survive, so we're happy to have them. There aren't a lot of opportunities to sit outside and eat here, unfortunately.
Typisch,
So if you were to walk down this way, you'll end up passing our federal building that has the FBI. You'll pass our community college, and you'll end up at the World Trade Center building. Down this way, we have a historic theater and more restaurants, and then it leads towards the rest of the city. But this dead ends at the riverfront. So if you want to get back to the cruise ship, you can follow this street down and you'll end up back at the cruise ship. We're going to cross it and keep heading this way, and I'm going to show you a couple of more sites before we finish our tour. But there's not as much to see going this way, so we won't have as many stops.
Mhm.
All right.
Mutzen die.
Yeah.
Ja.
It's very typical around here.
Yay, lifestyle.
We have a lot of characters.
Lots of characters. Der war der coolste. Den habe ich auch eingefangen, gell? Guck mal, Sushi King. Der war geil. Super. Ach Gott, ja, wie süß. Da fährt sogar noch eine. Die Haltestelle. Guck mal, die
Cars
Haltestelle.
started becoming a big commodity item and everyone started buying cars, the city demolished all of our trolleys and most of our public transportation. So for quite a long time, almost 100 years, we didn't have trolleys. This is a new set of tracks that this trolley's only existed since about 2011.
Trolley heißt das hier.
And it doesn't go very far. It only goes a few miles from one end of the downtown to the other.
Oh, okay.
There was a lot of fight. We tried to get our sister city next door, Virginia Beach, to build tracks into their city.
Das ist schön an den
But
Touris
they didn't
vorbei.
want it.
Der hat sogar. Ja, vielleicht winkt sie. Ne. Der Rest ist ganz abgedunkelt.
At the time, they said that they didn't want residents of this city going into their city, so that's why they opposed it. But now, 15 years later, they said, oh, we think this would be a good idea. Now we want it.
Ja.
We have about 240,000 permanent residents in this city. The next city over, Virginia Beach, that's on the ocean, has almost 500,000 people.
Jetzt kommt wieder das Sekunden-Countdown. Das war lustig gerade.
just down this little street, we have the Norva, which is our one of the entertainment spots where a lot of bands come through here. So even though it's very small, we get a lot of famous bands that play here. Just down the street from that is a performing arts theater. Right now they have a production of Dracula. They also, during the holidays, do a Christmas Carol. So we have a lot of interesting, for a small city, we have a lot of interesting arts and entertainment. And then back behind me is MacArthur Mall. So for those of you who must shop while you're here, you can go in here, but I will tell you it's very disappointing compared to if you've been here in the early 2000s. This mall opened in the year 2000, and it was state of the art. It was beautiful when it first opened. We had stores from Europe. We had all the big name brand American stores. Unfortunately, most of the shops have closed. All the department stores are gone, and now it's only a few shops that are open. But if you like arts and crafts, there's a thrift store inside that sells arts and crafts supplies. It's really cool to visit if you like that kind of thing. I do. All right, keep following me. We'll go this way.
Ja, voll die ruhige Stadt, aber vielleicht weil Sonntag ist. Da ist noch eine Kirche.
We're stopping now in front of another historic home that is now a museum. And this house is significant because the person who built it was our very first permanent Jewish resident. So Mr. Myers had been a prisoner of war during our revolution in New York, and when the war ended, he didn't want to be in New York City anymore. So he and his family came down here and built this beautiful home. They were the only family to ever live here, just like the other house we just saw. And today, this house is maintained as a museum. So if you have time this afternoon, I highly recommend coming back here. They're open until 5, and you can tour the inside. It's beautiful. It's a great example of early American, well, a very rich early American home. And it's maintained by the Chrysler Museum of Art. The Chrysler Museum is just a few blocks away, and again, that's that art museum that houses a lot of permanent collection, but it also has some really interesting rotating collections. All right, we're going to keep on walking this way. Yeah, for those of you who like maps, if you're like me, that's a very cool map right here on the ground that shows the downtown area as it looked in 1851.
Cool. Guck mal, eine Map.
So the Elizabeth River, where your ship is docked, is just down here. It shows the ferry. And
Ach, da sind
Yeah.
wir. Mhm.
so Town Point Park. Town Point Park is where they're having the wine festival today. If you like wine,
Mhm.
that's happening. So yeah, this is probably about where your cruise ship is. But it looks very different. All the street names for the most part are different or have been renamed since the 1800s. Only a few still remain. Bush Street is still Bush, Granby's still Granby.
Kann gut weitergehen, ja.
And for those of you who have been to the Netherlands or some other parts of Europe where they've reclaimed the land, same thing with Norfolk. A lot of the waterways were filled in with earth to make more place to build. So yet another reason why we have such terrible flooding here, because things are built on land that was never meant to be land.
Die gibt's immer, hm? Die Ohrgeber. MacArthur Center. Ein Eichhörnchen. Jetzt hüpft er hoch. Police and Fire Museums. Whitehead House. Mhm. Wann ist unser Kaffee und Kuchen, Snack? Das könnte man wohl ein Päuschen machen, gell?
Schon Hunger?
Bisschen. Ich habe ja nichts gegessen, so. Ich habe ganz wenig nur gefuttert. Duydun mu yoksa? Duydu hemen ha. Yakalandık. Mal die Fähnchen. Jetzt sieht die Stadt, von hier sieht sie ganz anders aus. No poop left behind. Wie das aussieht. Das hört sich nach Polizei an.
Mhm.
Achtung. Vorsicht.
Alright, watch your step.
Hindernis. Nicht, dass uns was passiert hier. Alles Kirchen.
Hier sind viele Kirchen, ne?
Ja. War die doch so eine Kirche. Aha.
Das ist voll toller.
Ah.
Der ist aber hoch jetzt.
Ich habe noch was flitzen gesehen,
Ja.
aber nicht so richtig.
Vielleicht siehst du von hier.
Mhm. Ja, da oben sitzt er. Ist schon wieder weg.
Stecken sich halt, ne?
Die haben Angst.
Da ist auch einer.
Ja, 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 ja. Jetzt geht's hoch. In Sicherheit. Jetzt kommt die Horde Touris, ne?
So we're now at the site of the oldest surviving building in Norfolk. As I mentioned before, the city's been burned multiple times during the Revolution and again during the Civil War. So that's why we don't have a lot of buildings that exist prior to the 1800s. Only, we saw a handful of buildings from the 1700s. This church dates back to 1736. The reason it survived the burning is because it was one of the few brick structures at the time. Most of the buildings were wood. The roof did burn, but they replaced it, but the walls are still the original walls. And as we've walked along, you've seen all the little signs probably that say Cannonball Trail. That is named for the cannonball in the side of the building over here. So if you walk over here, you see the little sign that says Cannonball.
Wir können die Kanonenkugel angucken.
This cannonball that's embedded up there in the top of the wall, right there on the corner, that is from the Revolution. So when the English governor of Virginia was forced to leave, he was very, very angry about it. And
Guck, jetzt mal so gar nicht gesehen, ohne Ausflug. Ohne
passing by
Führung.
on his ships, they were firing cannons at the city and trying to destroy what was left of it. So one of the cannonballs stuck in the side of the church. But at some point it fell out. So somebody found it on the ground and they decided to cement it back into place so we still can see it to this day. So that's originally where it struck, but it's a little bit of theater for you. Revolution and also from the War of 1812, but no one has been buried here since the War of 1812. Just behind us is the city jail. On the opposite corner is our new courthouse. So down here, we're surrounded by our court complex, and then all of the businesses. You'll see all of our tall skyscrapers as we make our walk back. All right, and if you follow me, we're going to move towards our final destination.
St. Paul's Episcopal Church. Achtung, Achtung, Loch. Achtung, Loch. Voll gefährlich, ne? Wenn man zufällig gerade aufnimmt oder so. Zack.
And where the little green circle is, that's where we are in downtown Norfolk. I mentioned Virginia Beach is our neighbor on the ocean. where it says First Landing State Park. That's a beautiful state park with gorgeous walking trails, but that is where the English first landed before they came up into the Chesapeake Bay, into the harbor, and then up the James River to settle Jamestown. Which Jamestown is way up here. So why they decided to go that far upriver to make their very first settlement, I don't know, but they did. And then there's Portsmouth that I mentioned is just opposite the river, so you'll see it from your cruise ship. So yeah, lots of history here. You'll see on their Monitor Merrimack. That's the famous battle of the ironclad ships that happened right here during the Civil War. But definitely a hub. If you like Civil War history, this is the place for it. If you have time while you're still in town, all of these windows have very interesting historical information. And it goes in chronological order. So you can kind of see the last 400 years, how the city has changed from century to century, which is pretty drastic changes. It looks today nothing like it did 100 years ago, and from then, nothing like it did 100 years before that. Across from us, this rotunda, or this building with a rotunda on the top, is our old City Hall building. Today, it's the MacArthur Memorial.
Ach so, das.
So the MacArthur Memorial over here is the final resting place of General Douglas MacArthur and his wife. MacArthur was one of the famous generals from World War II who fought in the Pacific. He also went over to Japan after the war and helped to run the Japanese government for them. Helped, of course. So when he died, he and his wife were buried here, even though neither of them were from Virginia. They chose this place because his mother was from Virginia.
Aha.
So that's a statue of General MacArthur out front.
Mhm.
There's some very interesting World War II history specific to the Pacific part of the war inside of the visitor center there. And if you were to have time, it's worth a visit into the memorial itself. That's where they're buried in the center. And then on the second floor are a lot of the things that they collected while they lived in Japan.
Free Wi-Fi area. Free Wi-Fi area. Von 6 Uhr bis abends um 8 habe ich es verstanden.